the loans have become less of a stepping stone and more of a ball and chain that's tying you down. I just feel like so many college kids graduate and they find themselves screaming into their pillows in the middle of the night. According to Pew Research, as of 2024, Americans owe a total of $1.6 trillion in student loan debt. That's a lot of money. I don't have to have a college degree to tell you that. But that's actually a 42% increase over the last 10 years. A study by NYU and Georgetown that found that on average, college degrees do yield 9 to 10% annual return each year over your lifetime. There are so many people that come out of college and they don't use their degree. They get jobs that either, number one, you don't need the degree for, or number two, that's what they fall into. I'm one of them. Just under 4 out of 5 people in this country do not think a college education is currently worth it. Why? Hello to all my wonderful listeners / viewers / fans / whatever you want to be called. Welcome back to Stay in the Great podcast. Today, I was at my kid's school and I was standing at the coffee machine where I find myself quite a bit, talking to some of the security guards, talking to some of the parents, spreading the word about the podcast. And one of the topics that we've been discussing recently a lot is about college in the United States. And college in the United States now in 2025, or Gen Z and whatever the new one's called. I don't even know what it's called, but I know it's here, and they'll be hitting college in the next few years. And it got us thinking, is college worth it? It's simple, or is it? It's a lot more complex than you think, and perfect for a show like this, where we like to stay in the middle and kind of assess it from both sides. So imagine this. I'll set you up here. 22 years old. You spent 4 years in college. You experienced life away from the home to a point, assuming that you are on campus and you're not living in your parents' home, which is fine also if you decide to do that. But you get out of school, and before you even get a job, or even if you have a job lined up, you haven't been paid yet, and all of a sudden you have the $80,000 in debt, $100,000 in debt, some even more, depending on where you went. You haven't even cashed a paycheck yet. Okay, that's a big deal. It's basically what you get for graduating. Is this big debt. So the loans have become less of a stepping stone and more of a ball and chain that's tying you down. I just feel like so many college kids graduate and they find themselves screaming into their pillows in the middle of the night, waking up from this bad dream, asking the same question. Was it worth it? That's what we're going to talk about. So join me. Let's get rolling. I'm going to start with some facts. I'm going to start with some numbers to try and back up what I'm going to talk about. And I think it's good to do that, especially in this case. According to Pew Research, as of 2024, Americans owe a total of $1.6 trillion in student loan debt. That's a lot of money. I don't have to have a college degree to tell you that. But that's actually a 42% increase over the last 10 years. I forgot to add that part. It's important. The average federal student loan debt per borrower is $37,853. That's a little lower than I thought it'd be, but it's still a significant chunk of change for not having savings, getting out of college, except for the people that have extenuating circumstances, of course, where there's family money, where there's something that was invested for them for school and to pay off loans, et cetera, et cetera. But it's the older people who can't seem to get rid of the debt. So 25 to 34-year-olds hold 30% of the debt, and 35 to 49-year-olds hold the most debt in total. And so they're not getting rid of it. They're not paying it down. It's hard. I mean, it really is. Now, it's one of the best low-interest, long-term loans that you can get out there, but it's still, for the amount, that's a big amount of debt to have. It doesn't take 3 to 5 years to pay it off. It takes a long time. And if you think about the numbers, it's a lot on somebody's plate right out of college. You're trying to learn life, and all of a sudden you're learning how to write a check that sometimes you don't have each month. But they're not just numbers. That's what I have here. It's things like postponing a wedding, postponing a vacation, not having children when you really want to have children, especially the housing industry the way that it is. I mean, you're not going to be buying a home until you're more secure. The apartment industry is doing very well, but it's basically pausing life. It's delaying life. And for somebody that did a lot of the things I just mentioned later in life than most, yours truly, I can attest to this. And there's a concern. It's hard to do all of the things I just mentioned. And I finally have children and a wife and a house and all these things. And I cannot imagine being 22 years old with a lump of debt, not knowing how you're going to do, never having a job truly affiliated with your skill, your degree plan. We'll get to that. I mean, so the big question, again, I asked at the coffee machine was, does a college degree really pay off? Does it pay off? Well, there's some nuance here. There's a study by NYU and Georgetown that found that on average, college degrees do yield 9 to 10% annual return each year over your lifetime. Okay, fair enough. That sounds okay. I'll take 9 to 10% return yearly over a lifetime. Okay, and that's an average. So that's what we'll get to. And a bachelor degree earns 86% more than those with just a high school diploma. So there is something to it. I mean, that's what you always heard growing up. At least I did. High school diploma is not going to get you anywhere. You got to get that college education. And that's what they're talking about here. There are many, many things, many industries, many fields that you can go into that require some sort of degree or some sort of education that relates to that topic, relates to that subject, relates to that field. So the twist is this: not all degrees are created equal. We know this. You could have figured this out without my help. The bottom line is you can't go in there and get a degree in gender studies and come out and expect to do a lot of things. That's the question. A lot of these kids are going in out of high school or whenever, and they're going in and getting degrees. You know, I hate to bash it, but communications degree, I don't know, be a little more selective. A lot of people go into marketing with that. A lot of people go into writing, a lot of journalism, things like that. Well, then go that route. Don't you know, this broad degree is the issue. So the Foundation for Research on Equal Opportunity found that 23% of bachelor degree programs and 43% of associate programs, which is the 2-year programs, have a negative return on investment. That's not good. That's a lot. I know it's only 23%, but that's a lot of people and a lot of degrees. Should have got a list of all these, you know, kind of the funny sounding degree plans. But a lot of people that don't know when they're 18 years old and 19 years old, they don't know what they want to do. So they grab one of these and they go and they have fun in college. And I agree that there's something to that also. You do need to live life. You do need to learn what it's like away from the home. And you need to learn how to make decisions that are beyond academia. But you've got to be able to at least shift and transfer, direct yourself into something that's a little more specific to what you want to do with it. There are so many people that come out of college and they don't use their degree. They get jobs that either, number one, you don't need the degree for, or number two, it's just, that's what they fall into. I'm one of them. I mean, I've used it here and there and to teach and to do these things and back and forth, but I'm also doing a lot of things that have nothing to do with my degree. And I have a master's as well. So there's a lot to it. And that's why we've got to analyze what the problem is. That's why I'm doing this. The one that gets me the most frustrated, the most, not sad, angry, the most enraged are education degrees. The return on investment for education degrees is negative 54.67%. That is not okay. These are our teachers. These are our educators, many of whom are trying their best these days to instill fundamentals of life and fundamentals of academia into children. We'll get to this in a second, but there's obviously an argument to a lot of the things that are being taught in the schools. And of course, that's different. The teachers work hard, the vast majority of them. They spend so much time. It's not just 8:30 to 3 or whatever you think it is. It's not. There's grading, there's lesson plans, there's teacher meetings, there's teacher parent conferences. You're constantly thinking about it. And to come out in debt and to make what they make is insulting. I would argue they are one of the most valuable careers when it comes to taking care of people that's out there. Obviously, that aligns with nursing and being a doctor and a firefighter and police officer, and they're underpaid as well. Doctors up and down. That's a whole other show. So let's talk about the generational divide in all this. It's interesting to me as a Gen X person. That's all I'll tell you. That to hear that we are, and I see it, we oftentimes scoff at Gen Z for questioning college. They're asking these questions that I'm asking you right now. And a lot of us go, you need to get your college education. You just get a college education. You just need to do it. But why? It's because we're taught that in our lives and in our experiences at the time period that we went to college. Perhaps it was more valuable. In fact, I would argue that it was. According to Pew, only 22% of Americans now think a 4-year degree is worth the cost if it involves student loans. So I guess that changes if people feel like, hey, I've got the money, or my parents are going to pay, or I get full grants or scholarships, then that changes things, because why not? At that point, just, yes. But if you're getting student loans and you're going to come out heavily in debt, people are starting to think that it's not worth it. Again, 1 in 5, a little over 1 in 5, think that it's worth it. So again, my major wasn't math, but that means 4 in 5, just under 4 out of 5 people in this country do not think a college education is currently worth it. Why? Nearly half believe a college degree is less important than it was 2 decades ago, which is what I was just talking about. Things have changed. Again, a different show, but it's one of the reasons the Department of Education is being scrutinized and is under the microscope, and it's being dismantled and hopefully rebuilt to handle these types of issues. But it's not laziness. It's hard for me to say that about Gen Z. I'd love to bash them, but I just think it's logic. I think that when you look at the things that we're talking about, I'm no longer going to get on them about it. I'm going to discuss it with them. Entry-level jobs demand skills that tie to the degrees that they have, but so many are now adding a third, which is experience. It's a triple threat that most people coming out of college cannot stand up to. They don't have. How are you supposed to gain experience if nobody will give you a chance to gain that experience because they want experience? People go through that when older people as well, when they're shifting careers or changing jobs. So that's a whole interesting thought as well. So I've offered you facts and I've offered you statistics in regards to this. Let's talk a little bit in the time I have left. Obviously, political reasons that many, including myself, feel that campus life and university living and the administration and professors at these universities and colleges are not good for the people there. There's a overall woke, progressive mindset. You can't really argue this. You just see it. And the administration, the teachers, and it's on display right now with these protests. I believe it was Colombia. Things have changed since then, but right when the initial protests for Hamas came out, in our own country, supporting a terrorist organization, the school was sending its students home to complete coursework online so that the protests could take place because they felt that it was their right to protest. Well, what about the right of the students to be on campus? One could argue that if you went home and took your courses online, that it would not be as effective. To some, it may work. To others, it won't. You won't get as much out of it being at home. Where are your priorities to the university? That is an issue. The priorities of these once great establishments. And I'm talking about a lot of Ivy League schools and a lot of high-end schools. The priorities are out of whack. That's another reason to question going. So I'm going to play you a video. This is a gentleman named Charlie Kirk. I've played him before. I agree with a lot of what he says. There are a few things that I don't quite line up totally with, and that's okay. But I admire the man. I think he's very intelligent. He never went to college, and he's got strong opinions about that. And so by playing this is his opinion on whether college is worth it. So take a listen to this.
If you do not have that worthless piece of paper from a local college, you could still succeed to great heights in this country. I guarantee you some of you right now have friends, family that are saying, oh, why didn't you get that piece of paper? Why didn't you go $100,000 in debt? You probably hear that, you're like, man, can I still succeed? Notice how they do political polling in this country? They do college educated and non-college educated. What are they really telling you? This is what the smart people think, and this is what the dumb people think. But who has wisdom? It's a much deeper question. What motivates me sometimes, and I want this to be motivation for you, is when some snob comes up to you and they say, oh yeah, you didn't go to college? What do you have to offer? What would challenge them and empower you is all of a sudden when they realize that there are hundreds of thousands of entrepreneurs that want it more, that can create value in such unbelievable ways, because you didn't need to go to those 4 years in college.
Well, there it is. And again, I agree with them, but at the same time, I also can see another side to it as well. And I think it may be a little bit over the top to a point. There are benefits to the school. The type of degree matters. But what he's saying is that you don't have to go in order to be successful. You don't need to look down on yourself if you don't go to college and think, I'm not going to amount to anything, so I'm just going to go and do an entry-level job for the rest of my life because I'm not adequately trained to do anything else. And that's where it gets dangerous for individuals, because it's just not true. There are so many entrepreneurs right now, and I believe it was Charlie, I read somewhere, and I think he confirmed it. There are a lot of millionaires right now, people that make over $1 million, $2, $3, $4 million a year in the plumbing industry, starting up their own company for trades that you would otherwise think don't make a lot of money, but they do. It's just about the drive and how much time you're willing to put in. By no means am I saying don't go to college. I'm just telling you it depends on what you want to do and what you're willing to sacrifice and how much money you're willing to accrue. Guess what? Doctors, please go to school. I do not support the idea that a person that wants to be a doctor not go to college. I think that is a prime example of somebody that I would like you to go to a lot of college, actually, before you get anywhere near me or my family. Lawyers, this is a different example. Learn the law, and I know that that's what law school is for, but how about not worrying about unrelated stuff? How about not worrying about those electives that you have to take? I get it. Everybody wants that badminton class at 8 a.m. in the morning. Let's just get some credit for kinesiology. That should be voluntary. If you're going into law school, instead of accruing all this extra money for coursework that you don't need, there should be a focus point, and that's the law. Leave high school. Let high school be your foundation, and you don't need to take Composition 1 in college. You've already had it. And if you're not adequately prepared for college, then maybe you don't get in, or maybe you don't do well, and you can be weeded out. College should not be about reteaching fundamentals. People that go to college for a trade should be adequately prepared. And if you're not, then you take a different route. So I did the poll the last couple of days around the coffee machines. It wasn't a large poll, but it was still enough for a sample size. What I did was I asked the same question: is college today worth it? And not one person said that it was. Everybody, again, my sample size wasn't huge, but it was significant in the big scheme. When you can count on more than two hands the amount of people I talked to about this, that's a lot. And all of them said the same thing. Back then it was, now it's not. Why is this? All the things I just mentioned. But the one thing that they were very adamant about was that they thought that the atmosphere, the life experience, and all of that fun stuff was something that people needed to have, leading into being self-sufficient in life. And I don't disagree with that. However, if that's all you're going for, you don't need to pay that much money. Just go and get an apartment somewhere and find a basic job that can support you and have fun and do those things and live life. That's my thought as an alternative. The debt was another one that they obviously talked about. And then, of course, the meaningless degrees. More than one of them, including myself. This whole idea of gender studies, things like that. Really? What are you going to do with that? We need to stop that. We need to eliminate that and use that as a reasoning why people think college is a waste. There is a psychological toll that's taken. We don't talk about mental health. There was a study by American Psychological Association that shows that student debt is now a leading cause of anxiety for millennials and Gen Z. People are making life decisions based on monthly repayments. So therefore, they don't get the therapy they need because it costs money. They don't take risks in life. They don't stay at a job or change or pursue their dreams because they have to pay the bills. So they stay at a job that doesn't fulfill them. So it's not just financial, it's emotional and it's psychological. And that needs to be taken into consideration. When you have a bunch of kids coming out depressed, like zombies, not knowing what to do with their lives. College can be worth it, in my opinion. If you choose the right major, you're willing to take on the financial responsibility, you're aware of it, and there's a certain path that you need to take and you feel like this is best, then sure, absolutely it's worth it. But the idea that it's the only path to success is fading fast. And Charlie Kirk, the video I just played for you, agrees with that, and I don't disagree. I don't have the huge passion that he does, because I did go to college and graduate school, but I can see his side. I'm not anti-college. I want to go ahead and clarify that as we end. What I am is anti-blind faith in something. It's the same thing with Ukraine these days, that people want to just shout at me. I don't like the blind faith we have without asking questions, thinking outside the box. If the system is broke and it stays broke, then all it's going to do is dig the rabbit hole deeper and deeper and deeper, where students come out depressed, and all of a sudden our world is affected, our country is affected, the industries are all affected. I want my doctors to be happy. I want people that wash my car to be happy. I want everybody to have a smile on their face. And right now, I don't think that a lot of people that graduate from college have an initial smile. I think they have a little bit of trepidation about life, and they have some fears. And if there's a way that we can make that better, that's what I want. So don't forget to subscribe, as usual. Like and follow, do all those things. If you have somebody that's thinking about college, a son or a friend or a cousin or brother or anybody, have them listen to this. Again, instead of overwhelming yourself with a lot of information, listen to something like this, where I care enough to give you a few statistics, some numbers, something to think about, but also to encourage you to create your own path, to encourage you to latch on if you do want to go to college. A lot of kids grow up and they want to go to college. That's what I want. So good luck to you. If you have any questions about the research that I have on this, let me know. I hope it helped. And we'll be back next time. Love you guys.
Shadow Street, streets of